The theme today is analyze, uncover insights. And it's all about data, and you will be taken through a few presentations today where we look at data, what you can do with the data and how you analyze the data. And I'm going to kick off really with something that was said to me not long ago by a guy called Edwin that looks after our digital marketing and is very much driven by the data. And he said to me, trust the data. He said to me, I don't understand why people always want to follow their gut feel. They should just trust the data. Well, unfortunately, as a business owner, that doesn't really work for me. I am by nature a verifier of data. And internally at Kilimanjaro, we use this program called Instinctive Drives to look at what drives our various people. We do this with all of our management team members. We do it with all of our team members. And their personality, if you like, is viewed in these 4 dimensions, being verify, authenticate, complete, and improvise. And you can see that I am an 8. I'm a number 8 in terms of verify, and it's a logarithmic scale. So I'm 10 times more likely to verify something than somebody that's 7 on that scale, which is already high on that scale. I have the opposite. I have the drive to avoid improvise, the drive to avoid complete, etc. But I'm a verifier of data, which means that I don't always trust the data, or I need to certainly analyze it before I will trust it. So the next question to answer is, why is data analysis important? What are we doing? What are we looking for? And the answer to that is we're looking for insights. We're looking for deep and rich insights that either support our proposition or our theory of what's happening in the business, or indeed counter that. And we're trying to find how to improve efficiency in our businesses, to drive profitability, to drive growth, if you're a not-for-profit, to drive the services of your core business to your target groups. Insights can actually be divided into a number of different types of insights. First of all, descriptive insights. And those of you that have been through an implementation of an ERP system or a business management platform will know that this is the starting point. Tell us about your business and just describe it as it is now, call the current state. We then move to what are called causal insights. This is cause and effect, that if A happens, then B will happen. Very, very useful to turn that on its head when you're looking at building workflows and to say, if A happens, I want to automate B happening. So you can do that in your software. The next one is the predictive insights. So looking at what's happened historically in the past and saying, well, this is what happened in the past. This is what's likely to happen in the future. We've picked up that there's a seasonal trend in people purchasing a particular item. We expect that this will happen again in the future. It's not always true, but worthwhile looking at. And then the last one is the prescriptive insights, where we can allocate specific actions based on our analysis. So those are the insights, the types of insights you will be looking for in your data. What is data and where is data? Well, you actually have a lot more data than you think. And often we don't recognize the sources of data that we're using. For example, your SQL database or your database is capturing data all of the time in terms of who's making the entry, what time was the entry captured, etc. And I've used that little example. A woman fired after work from home monitoring found she wasn't typing enough. In actual fact, it found that was a bit dramatic. It actually found that she wasn't logging in at all. But those sorts of data are available. If you've got any sort of digital web presence, digital marketing, Google Analytics is the ultimate data capturing engine, more data than you can poke a stick at. Your phone records, your accounting records, debtors ledgers, creditors ledgers, inventory, timesheets, and then statistical data that's available from various institutions, government, Bureau of Statistics, and so on and so on. So if you're looking for data, you certainly won't struggle to find it. It's more a matter of knowing what's appropriate to be analyzing and what is relevant. I did want to have a little point out the difference between granular data and aggregated data. And because I'm so anal about data, I love granular data, and I would rather capture data in a granular fashion than have it aggregated or concatenated. And a good example is the address fields. Those of you that came off MYOB Premier will know that MYOB Premier made this horrible habit of taking the address and pulling it all together into a single line. So if you did want to analyze and say, I want to see what the behavior of people is in a particular postcode, or for that matter, in a state or a suburb, you weren't able to do it without going through a process of deconcatenating the data. Those things have been made much more simple nowadays, where you can actually have data verification built into your database, and you can link into things like the postal universal address lists and so on, and verify the data. But you will find one of the themes today, when people, particularly when people start making comments and asking questions, will all be about having clean data and how you get to that point. The other point to note about data is changes in behavior over time. And this is actually taken from our own website. I'm talking about data coming out of Google Analytics, by the way, with this, where post-COVID, 88% of the people visiting our website are actually visiting our website from a mobile phone. So when you're looking at your data, it does change the picture somewhat. Instead of imagining somebody sitting at their desk in the office, typing away and having a look and browsing your website, all of a sudden you've got to think about somebody sitting on a train on their way to and from work, and it does change how you interpret that data. A couple of very common errors in data analysis. One has to just be aware of these three things. The one is the relevance of data. Is it significant in that specific context? The accuracy of data, is the data correct or true? And the precision of data, which means the standard deviation from the mean. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about that standard deviation in a moment. But just have a look at those three concepts and think about them when you're looking at data, so you don't draw conclusions from your data that are not actually supported by the data. So if you're making a decision, for example, about restocking inventory, you would need all of this type of information: product information, dates, quantities, reorder points, supplier information, but you wouldn't necessarily need the customer name, because that doesn't add anything to the data that you're analyzing. Relevance of data, I've got another nice example from our own website, where looking at this, I can see data that says the search interest has increased by 11%, which I think is good, until I actually look at that, and the 11% is actually people searching for how to climb Kilimanjaro, completely irrelevant to my business, and I would like to see that going down, not going up. So that's just regarding that. The accuracy of data, make sure that you are measuring your data accurately if you need it to be accurate. On the other hand, if you don't need the accuracy, there's no point in going to 2 decimal places. You might just want to know more or less what's the weight of an apple, and your kitchen scale will say it's about 150 grams. And don't worry too much about going to the decimal places. If you're dealing in units, just deal with the units. Don't worry about the decimal places that arise when you start doing your mathematical calculations. Precision, if it's necessary, you can measure precisely. Look at your data, make sure that you're getting very precise data. But remember that you can also be precise but not accurate if your measurement of data is wrong. So for example, in my example there, the scale is incorrectly calibrated, so it is precise but not accurate. To come back to that deviation from the mean, visualization of data is a really good way of looking at it. So instead of just looking at a list that says these are the clients and this is how many units they bought, you can look at it as a standard deviation from the mean in a bell curve, and you can say most clients bought, let's say, between 6 and 8 units, a few clients bought 1 unit, and a few clients bought 20 units. And that's what's called a normal distribution, where you've got about 68% of the clients in the middle of the bell curve, and the bell curve will cover 99 or close to 100% of your clients. The other bit of data that I wanted to cover off on is what's called proxy data. And you would have come across this when you're looking at temperature records or rainfall records, where you would be using tree rings as a proxy for what actually happened, because the measurement doesn't exist. And proxy data, it can be quite useful in your business. I highlight an example of a client of ours that was in high-end outdoor furniture. One of the salespeople noticed that a lot of people coming to the showroom were driving quite high-end four-wheel drive vehicles. And we decided that that was probably a good proxy for their income. And we then went and got data, statistical data, that showed which were the suburbs that had the highest concentration of these four-wheel drive vehicles. And they were thus able to plot that out and make a decision as to open a new store. And in actual fact, that correlation between what vehicle you drive and what your income is quite a well-known correlation. What your car says about your salary, it's quite accurate. A few words about the data analysis process. So starting off with data collection, making sure your data is clean, and then starting to analyze the data and to model the data, and then get to the final point of interpretation and insights. So I'll just very quickly give an example of that from our own business. Again, we noticed, this goes back a few years, we noticed that our conversion rate being we generate leads for the sale of software, our conversion rates on the Exo software were declining, but strangely enough, the conversion rates on the advanced software were also declining. We went and dug around and we thought we'd look at Google Trends. We looked at Google Trends and found that the number of searches for Exo were almost, there was almost nothing in it. People were still searching for Exo as much as they had been in the past. There was an increase in searches for Advanced, but neither of those really explained why our conversion rates were going down. So we started looking then for these causal insights. We really did a deep dive into the data, and we actually found that there was a particular date in November, November the 17th, where the trends suddenly changed. So we knew then this wasn't market related, it must be something else. The Exo leads fell, the advanced leads spiked, the conversion rates dropped on the same day. And in looking at cause and effect and saying, why did this happen? We realized and we discovered anecdotally that there was a change in the instructions given to the demand generation team. This is the team that generates the leads, and not market driven at all. And the team had been instructed to categorize the leads differently. So what was a good Exo lead with good conversion rate actually became a poor advanced lead with a poor conversion rate. So we went a step further there, and we looked at what's called creator-based data. When this is in the database, this is the data in the database that is normally not visible to you, but the database is maintaining who created the data and so on. And from that, we worked out what factors generate the best leads for us. So these were generated by a particular employee. They were tagged as referral leads, and they were created between the 9th and 15th of the month. And we were also able to see that the worst leads were created by 3 other employees, tagged as revitalized leads, and created between the 8th and the 10th of the month. And that last point in terms of the dates had to do with the incentive scheme that these employees were on, and whether when in the month they had to fill their quota. So to finish off then, when I say trust the data, yes, trust the data, but you do need to make sure that the data is accurate, precise, and relevant, and you can then use the data to make those informed decisions and to uncover insights that will help you to improve your business. And that's pretty much where I'm going to leave it, Grant. Thank you very much for that, and I hope you found that interesting, and I hope you find the rest of the day interesting.